Open Table Conference is a gathering of pretty diverse people, pretty diverse perspectives, not necessarily theologically, but certainly in every other way. And it's designed to focus on who is Jesus and the implications of his identity. That's the way I see it, the way I've always seen it. And that's sort of the way I see myself in it. It's my job is stay focused on the Christology and let it just start rippling out. And it does in a variety of ways with a variety of different emphases. Some people more theologically minded, some people more practically minded, some people more interested in inner healing, all of which go together under the heading of who is Jesus.
Yeah, and I would add to that.
Go ahead.
I would add to that that the implications of what it is to have Christ in us, and this language we use around union, and that we would be loved by the Father as the Father is in us, as we're in the Son, as this, what Baxter reminds us is called perichoresis. It's an interpenetration of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit with and in those whom he dwells. The ripples from that are enormous, and we feel them through the Open Table Conference when we converse about it and respond to each other.
There's a lot of things that I love about Open Table. One is that it's not an organization, and there's a real growing diversity of voices involved, not from any particular denomination or even any particular tradition. And I also like that none of us really talk about what we're going to talk about in advance. It is real life in real time. And as a result, you don't know what's coming, but it has always turned out to be very beautiful and very challenging. And so what I love over this period of time, that the voices have really become diverse, and it's been very healthy for us. For me, anyway.
Yeah. And maintaining the focus on the question, who is Jesus, so we don't go flying off the handle with the latest ism. And what does it mean that he's in us and in everyone, and how does that work out? That's a huge undertaking.
This is all awesome. This is good. I think that we all came from a story, a narrative that produced toxicity in all of us in different ways. And, Paul, yours obviously was the most dramatic. And, what came out of all of that was you writing The Shack. But Open Table is an attempt in a culture that is hearing most things about God from a certain vantage point. It's an attempt to offer a different narrative that essentially says God is better than you think he is. And we want to talk about that with you. We don't have all the answers, but every question is welcome. And we want to discuss it. Because this is what we have found. So it comes out of our personal experience.
Yep. And it's not a new narrative. That is,
nope.
We're not making up something new. We're actually grounding it in the historical adventure to understand Jesus.
Yeah.
I am the light of the world, Jesus said. Not the light of the Christians.
And then he says, and you only are the light of the world. In that same passage, which is pretty astounding. Christ in us.
I like what some of our newer teachers bring to the table too, like Father Kenneth Tanner, Cherith Nordling, Julie Canlis, others, Felicia Morel, and all of that, where there's this real element of the word becoming flesh means we have a God who is not a vague, ethereal force. as Father Kenneth says, the universe does not love you. Christ loves you because he is the God who bears our wounds in his flesh. And I found it fascinating that even while some have departed, let's say, from historic Christianity into something much more vague, when I repeat that, people get it, they resonate. Oh, how can I worship a God who doesn't know my wounds, bear my wounds, and do so with me and in me? And the more I meditate on that kind of incarnational theology of the God who bears our flesh and the wounds in them, the more I'm completely taken by it. And I go, that is so radical that everything else kind of feels blasé to me afterwards. It's just, there's just nothing radical enough to measure up to that kind of beauty. So you'll hear a lot about that at the conference.
And nothing
And there's a
else will work.
celebration. Yeah. Say again?
Nothing else will work. I mean, you try other things. All attempts are really, as Solomon would say, vanity.
Dust
People
in the
are
wind.
sharing out of their real stories. They're sharing out of their real stories, and it is a challenge to live out what you're hearing, right? It's not about becoming smarter. It's about becoming more human.
Yeah, thank you, George McDonald.
You bet.
The recognition of the sacred presence of the Father, Son, and Spirit in every person, moment, and place is the beginning of wisdom. It is the beginning of seeing what is. If you don't see what is, you're going to create something that you can see, and you're going to defend it with a vengeance because it's all you think you have. We've all come from traditions where we have defended with a vengeance what we've created, and we've all seen through it and come to discover that the Father, Son, and Spirit are present. That's a mind-boggling, paradigm-shifting revelation, the implications of which are staggering. And that's what we're determined to work out. And we're all like a half a step ahead, maybe, but no further. This is a revolution that's taking the world by storm, even as we speak. And it's just a joy to stand in the gap, to be called all manner of evil, while at the same time you're just saying exactly what Jesus was saying, exactly what the early church was saying. And then we got lost in the West in our abstractions and our intellectualism and our arguments and in our theologies. But it's about Jesus in you, Jesus in your darkness, Jesus in your mess, redeeming the Holy Spirit, the redeeming genius, transfiguring the mess we made of ourselves or was made of us in our wounds. That's an enormous, beautiful picture. It encompasses all people. Everywhere we're on a journey, but I think that's the journey that we're on, the journey of discovering Jesus in us, and he brought his Father and the Holy Spirit with him.